All right. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning and happy Monday. It is Divine Masculine Mondays. And today we have my co-host, Ben Curtis, and special guest, Brandon Archer, who will be coming on live on Instagram and Facebook. Wave here.
So excited for this to have Brandon on today.
All right.
Met Brandon online through the graces of algorithms.
Yeah. Yeah, it does work.
Hey.
Algorithms work.
So welcome, guys. If you're tuning in just now, we are starting the Divine Masculine Mondays. Got my co-host, Ben Curtis, and special guest is Brandon Archer, the men's communication coach. So we'll be talking about a lot of different topics for the masculine, healing wounds and traumas, as well as communicating to the feminine with healthy masculinity. So I'm excited to have you guys on. Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for having me, guys. This is awesome.
Our pleasure. So Brandon, let's just all make sure our phone volumes are all the way down for feedback. And Brandon, for those of you who don't know, where are you coming from today?
I'm in Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada, which is like they call it the Napa Valley of the North.
Nice.
Lots of wine made here. It's almost desert-like. People would be surprised. In Canada, it looks like Napa Valley. It's pretty cool.
I'm surprised. And I'm glad to know that there's someone holding the fort down for the masculine out there, right? Like it never ceases to amaze me that this can connect us in all corners of the world. So I was thrilled when I was seeing the work you were doing, and I just like assume, oh, there's another LA guy, or, like throwing it out there for everyone, because you really had an impact on me in your work and the way you communicate. And I know that you speak from your heart. And so that's something that I loved. So I'm just excited for you to be here today too. I'm excited to see John Tran. He just has been slaying it in the yoga world. Slaying with divinity and peace.
I love it. Thanks, Ben.
Yeah. And before we go in real quick, I just to connect us, because we missed John last week. Our followers were asking, and so John, do you just want to let people know the magic you've been creating in the world?
Yeah, we last week we were in Mexico, in Puerto Vallarta, and we hosted a 6-day yoga retreat. Yoga plus adventures, mindful adventures, and it was beautiful. We got to hold space for people to have fun, heal, explore, and just dive deeper into consciousness.
And that's something you created, actually, right? Or was this the one you were invited into?
No, me and my best friend Saumil, we've been talking about putting together a retreat where we both would co-host, and 4 years of talking about it just gets old. So
Yeah,
it's take action, and we put it into action, put it out there, and we booked the retreat and did it, and it was beautiful.
and you sold out, right? You had to you're doing another one?
We sold out. We sold out of the first one, which was this one, and so we had the waiting list for people, so they'll be coming in September. So that one's starting to book out as well.
Beautiful. Well, congratulations. And it's just a good reminder, like if you build it and create accountability and partnership, that really you can create anything. You've created this space of abundance. So that's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. So for everyone who's listening, if you're with us, let us know where you're coming from. And if you have any questions for us today, remember this is interactive and we love having you join us along the way. So please do join us and ask questions anywhere. Brandon, we like to do round robin and just circle around as we kind of interview you, and then we're going to just freestyle about men's work, about trauma, about the things that help the world heal, right? So Brandon, what brought you to this work? And what is, I guess that's the thing. Like, why this work? Why you? Why are you doing this today?
It's like there's a couple layers to that. And like when you asked me what I want to talk about and I said trauma actually started me on the path. I just didn't know it. Like in my 20s, I'm like, I really wanted a relationship. It was super, super important to me. Probably in an unhealthy way. So I put a lot of energy into that. And I got married, that ended. And then after my divorce, it's 5 years ago. I don't remember if we talked about this. I actually had a heart attack when I was on my bike training. I'm pretty fit. I was the fittest in my life at the time. And that really knocked me back. It really made me like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I'm not happy. I'm stressed out all the time. Something's not right. So that started me on a journey to look inward. I started a new relationship. And as we know, the feminine is, she can be an oracle and really push you to go to another level of yourself. And that's exactly what happened. But then I kind of capped out and I'm like, I don't know what to do next. And I found men's groups. And that is where things really, really picked up momentum. And in that container and trusting other men and being exposed to new ideas on what
Brandon, we might need a mic check you real quick. Instagram.
Where here?
Can't hear you. Hey guys in Instagram, can you guys
A retreat. I went to a retreat and I was a participant, but sitting in that circle with these men for 3 days, I'm like, this is what I'm supposed to do for the world. I'm supposed to help men. I'm supposed to help men. So that was where really I shifted gears and I really went, more into myself, so that I could learn more ways to help men. And again, circling back to like how I said trauma and relationship or the trauma triggered me to put too much emphasis on relationship. I also realized men really want good relationships with their wives or their partners. It's very important to me. But I also see there's a huge gap on how to do that. We don't know how to do it. Like we spend tens of thousands of dollars and years going to university to get a profession, to pay the bills. Yet we spend no time and no money and no research on how to be in a relationship. Isn't that kind of backwards? Like something that's so important to us as human beings and we don't put any effort into it.
And then we wonder why we fail in relationships and why our partners are so frustrated that we don't know how to do anything other than just work.
Yeah.
Or find a solution to fix for every problem, right?
Totally. Yeah. So that's why I do this work. I want to help men have better relationships with their partners, which ultimately means better relationships with themselves. And that's where the world starts to change. Powerful men, connected to themselves, connected to their divine masculine and the love that's involved there that we just simply as a society, we don't understand. We don't see it. We don't see how powerful men are and how much love they have to give.
Yeah, that line and how much love they have to give. And I want to even throw something else on top of that. I don't think men see how much love we have to give and that we actually have to give ourselves too. I think there's a missing in how to love ourselves. It's I teach this work and still sometimes I forget, right? Because we're human, but it's just not a go-to, right? So I love that you're bringing this up in our education system from the get-go. So this really brought you here now, and this is your passion.
Yeah, absolutely.
John?
Yeah, I like what you said, Brandon. And what I'm getting from this is how much love we can give. But when this love is something we give to ourselves, we're actually receiving as well. So it's that whole duality of, can I give myself love and receive love?
Yes.
That's the masculine and the feminine that lives within us. And we activate that when we can love ourselves. So brilliant that you.
And on that for like almost a selfish take on that. You're right. The more we love ourselves, the more love we allow in. Women want to love us so big. We have no idea. We actually don't know. and we're blocking it. We're actually blocking it if we don't do our work and learn to connect with ourselves first and tap into that love. The second that happens, it feels like magic when you experience it, because the divine feminine wants to give. She wants to give us so much, so much. And we've been conditioned to kind of like not want it, or not, oh, I'm too tough for that. It's not what it is, man. It's not what it is. It's a beautiful thing when we experience that. And I want all men to experience that. And we 100% can, but we have to throw out everything we think we know about relationships, pretty much everything.
Yeah, I think 100%. And I know there's men watching who can resonate with that, and I know there's women watching who can resonate with that too. I think we all have so much to give, and women need that space to love and to thrive as well, but not in a way that it has to be in a man's world, right? And that masculine thing and all that stuff. I think I'm noticing as I'm saying that's made up. That's all toxic masculinity. It's not this man's world, quote unquote, is something that we've actually created and agreed to. So I think I love these conversations because it's kind of like we're unagreeing. we're saying, wait a second, actually, we don't agree with this anymore. And that's how we can create newly. One of my favorite teachers, Daniel Tuttle, talks about creationship, and that in a relationship, he even challenges his partner to, can you, and me, says this to me all the time, are you willing to completely destroy and undo everything in your relationship right now to create a new future for yourself and your partner? Because everything you've done is made up, and everything up to this point is your idea of it, and you're not actually sharing it with a person, right? You're expecting this person to fit in your mold, but you really have to create it, and you have to create together. And that's terrifying. Daniel says his partner's always like, wait, no, what are you doing? Are we breaking up? He said, no, just inviting you that like, we can create anything. We don't have to settle for anything. We don't have to do anything else that we see out there, that we hear. Like we actually, this relationship is only you and me. Like, so we actually get to create it newly today. So what's not working, and how can we make that work, and what is, and how can we do more of that? And so actually, and do any of us feel safe spaces to sit down and say that with our partners? I don't know.
Not often. But
No.
One thing you said, it's like a creationship every day. Every day is new. You get to decide every day what it looks like. And it could look different day to day too, which is a scary thought for some people. But that's the way life goes. It's unpredictable. And leaning into that is where some magic can happen.
And I think there's trauma inside of there too, right? Because we have to unpack those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Trauma rules us until we acknowledge that it's there. My recent journey has been, oh man, that trauma that I thought I dealt with, it's still there. It's still I wouldn't say so much creating my paradigms, but definitely influencing my behavior.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And we're born into it, right? And I think a lot of us as adults are still working through those childhood things. We learned different ways to stay safe, and a lot of those are still carrying with us because we're just asleep. We're not even aware of it. So my hope is today, inside of this conversation, that we can uncover that it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to lean into those spaces, into the edges, with ourselves and our partners, but everything is in relationship. It's in relationship with ourselves. So, for our audience, Brandon, I always love to ask people, what do you see for the, like, what would you love to bring this conversation? What's there for you now? And Brandon shared about trauma. And that's something I'm always working through. I've been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder and a lot of things, but the more I talk to people day to day is we're all dealing with that. And the more we can acknowledge it, the less power it has. And then we actually can start creating newly in our relationships, right? But until we acknowledge those things, they can't own us, right? And this is the work we get to do, that we have privilege of doing. And I want to acknowledge being like a white guy in this work, and being able to have this conversation is of privilege, right? So I'm grateful for that. So Brandon, what is it about, what's the thing with trauma that you're up against today that you see in this work is so important, or that's made a difference for you or the men you've worked with?
I think, the most important thing is to acknowledge we all have some sort of trauma. I think that's so, so important. And one way to simplify it, I think, is to, anytime you are in a conversation or in a situation with your partner, anyone in life, and you act out of character, of air quotes, out of character, and you're like, what the heck just happened? Like, I was so angry. That's not how I like to talk to people. I can't believe what took me over. That's trauma sneaking up on you. That is trauma trying to protect you. We're pretty amazing beings. It's by design. It's by design you're lashing out. It's trying to protect the wounds that were created somewhere in your life, often in childhood, often. And it's part of our nervous system and our mind. It's like, oh, I recognize this scenario. Engage defenses, and defenses are quite often verbal, right? And I think if everybody can just acknowledge, hey, it's there, I don't really know what it is, that's also okay. You can start to move the needle if you just say, yeah, I spoke to my partner that way. I'm not proud of it. Don't make excuses. Just go, I did that, and I need to figure out how to change that behavior. I really think that's so important. The actual trauma, where it comes from in my journey currently, like, I am aware of where my personal trauma comes from, deep abandonment wound, which most people have to some degree. I picked it apart. I tried to figure out where it came from, why this happened, why that happened. But end of the day, I'm coming across some processes where I can just in the moment start to change my behavior. I don't need to know what happened with mom 40 years ago. Once we acquire the skills, or you find a teacher that has the skills to teach you, you can just in the moment start to reprogram your nervous system a different response to that trauma. And it sounds a little it's not to do with the mind, it's to do with the body. The body is going react. People do believe it's in their mind, and they think, if I read this book, I'll figure it out. If I have positive thinking, I'll figure it out. Those are great, but to me, it's not the healing. The healing is the body. When my body reacts and makes me blurt out something, how can I find the tools to regulate my nervous system and show it that I'm actually safe? I'm safe in my body. Like, that's actually what it is. But we don't talk about that. We're like, especially as men, I'm going to read this book and I'm going to figure out how to fix this. It doesn't work like that. It takes some dropping down into our body. It takes that combination of learning how to integrate our feminine and our masculine energies. How do I work with all of that together so I can change my behavior, how I can heal my trauma so that I can show up better for me? Like John said it about loving ourselves. Oh man. More connected with yourself you are, the more you can show up for everybody, starting with yourself. And if you do that, man, woo, some magic. You tap into this power that men have, that we have buried for millennia. I think millennia, to be honest. Women want us to wake up. Women want us to deal with this. They want us to step into our power. And guys are listening going, what are you talking about, power? Man, I've had glimpses of it. I'm not going to say I've got it all figured out, but when you are vibing in that place, it's like, I can do anything. I literally can do anything. But there's some work to do to get to that space. And trauma is it's holding us back, man. And we have to dig into that and heal that and learn. It's not up to our spouse to deal with it. It's not up to our therapist to deal with it. It's us. And that's where I know I've said it before, how powerful men are. Man, we have capacity to do things that we're really unaware. We're really unaware of what we have. And one is deal with that trauma on our own with some guidance, and teachers obviously is a good thing. But I'm super like on this kick for myself right now, which is why I have talked so much. So I'll take a break now.
No, I love this trauma work. One thing I want to let people know at home, we use the word trauma a lot, but if you're watching this and you're trying to figure out what we're talking about, like how do you identify your traumas? I did a workshop, or actually went to a retreat that was trauma informed Reiki, and the psychologist that was there taught us the ways to identify our traumas. And whenever we're in those F moments, which is fight, flight, fright, freeze, and fawn, the 5 Fs. Oh fuck, like all the Fs. It's usually a trauma that's being triggered. So if you ever catch yourself in any of those moments where you're freaking out, angry, fighting with someone, where your nervous system is not at center, you're just something that is happening is triggering that trauma. It's a trauma response, and this is where we learn how we can cope with it, which is and the way they taught us is there's coping mechanisms, which is putting on like a funny movie or something, or some random thing just to get your mind off of this this trauma response, this trigger. And that's a coping mechanism. Coping mechanisms kind of work, but the real way to heal it is to dig into our own resources. And our resources are so if you put on a YouTube comedy show because you're freaking out, it might pacify you. Or if you Netflix binge for another 3 hours, it'll pacify you for a little bit. You'll get your mind off of it. And then next time you have a conversation with your partner, shit's gonna come up again, hit the fan again. So coping mechanisms are short-term fixes, and resourcing is the long-term healing. And that's when we can really tap into what sources do I have within me that will help regulate my nervous system. And that's our breath. We can journal and write what we're aware of, what's happening. Just bringing awareness to that elephant in the room will help it leave. or just acknowledge that it's there and that it's no longer a present threat to you is really big. So I just wanted to, so is it possible to live without any traumas? Hafiz Optimist.
I know Hafiz. He's in Calgary, wow. Alberta, Canada.
Let's do a round robin on this answer. I like that question, Hafiz. Is it possible to live without any traumas? And I would say that every human is born and brought into this world, and there's some level of trauma. It's just like every human on Earth deals with the moonlight coming up, the sun going down, and then the night turning on, right? We all deal with it. It's all there. And just how do you live with it? So we all do live with traumas, and we don't have to be in survival mode with traumas. We can acknowledge that they are something from the past, and we can re-regulate our nervous system when it comes back up. And there's just tools to do it. If you're in a relationship, one of the best ways is to calm your own nervous system down when you're in communication with your partner, rather than to jump back into those F moments and fight or flight. So Ben, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you. And what's working for me right now is visualizing my feelings and my trauma as my inner child, so 4-year-old self. And just listening to you, how I can apply that is if I think of a 4-year-old and any situation, how he might react, and he might freak out. But my responsibility as the adult part of myself is to make sure he knows he's safe in those moments. So he's always there. He's always going to be like it might be a little like, whoa, what just happened? But it's my job to go, hey, we got this, it's okay. So I do agree with you. I think they're always going to be there. I don't think you can ever fully heal. I think this is part of our human experience.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. is it possible to live without traumas? I mean, it's a big statement. If we're talking about from here forward, possibly if you stayed extreme, like isolated in a bubble, and then you might have a trauma from that, from your isolation, like many of us actually are experiencing 15 months later out of a pandemic, trying to reintegrate into society and expectations, not actually taking into account the time we just spent in isolation, right? And then there's actually time for integration, and it's okay to have new fears and new traumas and anxieties, right? So, and from the past, I don't think so. I think birth in and of itself is slightly traumatic. Some children maybe have a little bit more easy birth than ever if you've brought into a pool of water, warm water that matches the temperature of your placenta. I don't know, but birth in and of itself, I mean, you're being broken from the thing that's fed you completely. Your nourishment is completely shut off. Your breathing mechanisms completely change. You get smacked, you scream, and then this whole world of sensory slams you. And I think it's almost like life is trauma informed from that moment forward. But I think also trauma has a really negative context, like it's a body's response to staying, to being safe. So to fear, right? So we can actually, it does keep us safe. And so I think trauma can actually be a good thing. It teaches us along the way. If we live our life, I think fixated on that, it can really hurt us. But if you're informed and you can learn from it, then it can actually, that trauma, and when you hear like trauma informed, that's just awareness. Right. And that awareness opens so many doors of possibility, because you're no longer just a reaction every time your partner brings up how needy you are, or how sensitive, or that you don't feel, or that you don't care, because inside something in you does, and you're having some reaction. Right. So this is just about understanding where that reaction comes from. And 99% of the time, those reactions that we're having have nothing to do with us or our partner or the person there. Right. And so we're expecting these people to fit in these molds. And by the way, chances are we probably are attracting people that have those same recreating traumas from our past, because they're familiar. And so it really, like, people get so scared of it, but I almost get excited talking about it. I mean, I always have reservations. Even going this talk, I was like, oh, this is going to be heavy today. But if we look at how we can actually use trauma to inform us and free us, right? Like, if we're talking about it, then, oh my God, this thing doesn't own me anymore. There's so much freedom there, and it can be scary, but again, you don't have to do it alone. And there's so many great guides right here today, but anyone in your life can be a resource. I use a tree sometimes. I just go sit with a tree, hug a tree. I find nature is really grounding. Someone that I can talk to that doesn't talk back, doesn't have any investment, but can also help absorb the energy that doesn't serve me, and like transmute that, right? So I like to get out in nature. So that was a long-winded thing, but yeah. And then I want to say one more thing to close is Pat Graham on here, PK Graham, said this great quote from Conversations with the Rattlesnake, that healing is not curing, it's just coming to terms with what is. So we're not even looking for cures. We're just looking for some acceptance.
Yeah, I saw that. That's super great. I love that quote. I have to remember that one.
All right. What else we got? So anyone at home, if you guys have any other questions, we love to dive into them. Ben, what's up, Ben?
Well, I want to hear, since we have Brandon here.
Yeah.
Brandon, I'd love to know, so you're facing these things on your own now and working with other men. What are some of the resources you found, the tools you use as a coach? Or I also know you've been a group facilitator in these groups that you found to have made, what are the greatest resources? I'd say, here's a question. Yeah. What are the resources you use, Brandon, to work with your own trauma? And then what are the resources you use to work with those people in your circle? whether clients or fellows?
What's currently, obviously breath work. I think breath work is amazing. I think it it can change I can never get it right. Is it parasympathetic to sympathetic or the other way around, which is the good one. But it can drop you from, a triggered state into the calmer one quite quickly. I think that's important for people to explore. There's different techniques. I'm currently using a box breathing one of in breath to 4, hold for 7. I guess it's triangle breathing actually, out for 8. And it's actually it's very effective. I'm really enjoying that one for myself, but also in group facilitation, I'll do that. And you can see everybody's nervous systems kind of co-regulate, which is another amazing thing that I'm exploring right now. Inner child dialogues, I think, are extremely powerful to learn what's going on internally with your nervous system. I'm really leaning into that for myself and with clients. And then, of course, meditation. I mean, that's still a go-to. I think everybody needs to do that. Also, I personally am just starting somatic therapy, and I'm finding that is something. And Kai Jong, yes, Haviz led us. He came to retreat with us, and he led our group, our weekend group, and it was amazing. I don't know much about it, but bang on. I love that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah. This is all meditation, and that's parasympathetic, to answer your question.
Is it?
Yeah. I had to look it up.
Yeah. Good. So those are the few things that I'm currently using that are just effective. And I think there's so many tools out there. There's so many good ones that work. And I think also it's easy to get overwhelmed. And I think everybody's healing journey is their own, and you need to find what works for you. I think you need to try a few things because, the inner child dialogue works great for me and my clients currently. It might not work for everyone, and that's okay. So explore some different things and see what feels right for your journey and your particular healing.
I think that's great advice. Yeah, you've got it. Everything works. Everyone's body is different. We all come from different places. John, what's worked for you?
Me, the biggest medicine is yoga. So yoga is for me both movement and meditation. So it's the stillness and the movement. It's really taught me to love myself, just to carve out an hour of my day to devote to myself. And by devoting to something, being that you're the same thing, you get to receive that something back, which is love. So that self-love is given and received in one little package. And it'll last a lot longer than the 1 hour you would devote yourself and invest in yourself. It feels like it, could potentially last a few hours, even a day or two. So yoga has been the gateway for me. Meditation, of course. I love breath work. But one of the biggest, most healing things is actually working with someone that is trained in this, having a coach or just because there's some things we just don't know, and we can spend the time and meditate on it or regulate our nervous system when we get triggered on our own. But to have a guide that's been there a few steps ahead of you has been the biggest. I think we all heal organically, but when we have that extra hand of help to heal, it's like exponentially faster. I don't know if it's faster, but it's just more efficient, more.
I'd agree. I think it is faster. To have a guide to prompt you, even with the somatic therapist I went to last week, just small cues, just small verbal cues. It's like, wow, that's amazing. She just gets you there a little bit quicker because she's third party. She's that person, that coach is not sitting in your trauma with you. So they're able to object. They're able to just watch what's happening and help guide you. Because we all know when you're in it, you can know all the things to do, but trauma is powerful. And I shouldn't use trauma. your responses to it are very powerful. And sometimes you can't think quick enough on what to do. So to have somebody just guide you along that, I agree, is very powerful. And also one thing, other human beings to help you co-regulate your nervous system. I had a partner, and we wouldn't even think about it, but our breathing would sync to each other when we were in each other's presence. And I'm like, what is going on right now? But it was co-regulating. Our nervous system just could, it's a beautiful thing. It's very powerful because we're not meant to be isolated. We're not meant to be alone. So if you have a partner that's willing to do breath work with you, I strongly believe that that's a really powerful way to heal and feel connected as well.
Yeah. Or a friend, or even an animal. I used to do breath work with an animal, whatever. I was a dog sitter a lot, and I would do it in different places because I would wake up in New York City in the middle of different neighborhoods, like super, intense. And I have these animals to take care of too. And so something I would use is to breathe with the animal. I would try to match the animal's breath. Dogs breathe very differently from humans. So it was actually challenging, but just even anything to bring your awareness out of whatever to the present moment immediately is like, and there's that, I have a great exercise on, the animals are speaking. They bring you right there. They hear us. They know what's up. They're like, yo, bring me in the interview. This is our moment. Come on.
Let me talk. Kona.
Coda's a pit bull that's healing. And I've actually had pits all around me lately too. And that's another thing, to use like animals that elicit fear, because we were taught to, like, pit bulls are some of the most affectionate breeds out there ever. And it's just giving things a new context. And all of these things you guys have said, the one thing I want to highlight of all of the tools we've talked about, with the exception of dialogue, probably is embodiment. Right. So all of these things, it comes down to nervous system. Yes.
The healer.
All of these things come down to a nervous system, and it's okay to use other things with permission, like with consent. Like animals know, if they come close, it's okay to like hold the animal, like they know they can handle it. You see animals like deer or anything will shake off in nature after any type of intense experience. They're literally shaking the energy off their body. Like matter's neither created nor destroyed. And if you're, part of this conversation and you're listening today, chances are you're probably an open spirit that feels things more than some other people because you're aware. And, it's easy to take on other people's energy. So Brandon, as you were talking about that, like breathing with people, I noticed, I can take on other people's trauma being in a room with them. So the embodiment work is amazing. Like I'll even just go outside to separate myself and I always ask myself this question, especially with challenging people, like, who does this belong to? Who does this belong to? Who does this belong to? Return to sender. Those are the things I learned that from my teacher Daniel too, and it just helps me. Like if someone's like triggering me, I just keep saying that over and over and over, because it's like, this isn't mine. This isn't mine. I don't have to react to this. I don't have to react to this. Return it to them. And it kind of just, that for me is a great tool to remember, like, I don't have to take this on, or I can just remove myself and step outside and be like, my God, is this mine, or was I just breathing with this person having a meltdown in there, And the last thing I'll say, the thing I love, and I've been in therapy, I was probably in therapy off and on for like 30 years. My family really believes in it. It's helped us a lot. But at some point, talking was not enough. And I needed to have someone hold me accountable. I needed to have someone stop listening to my bullshit and actually make me go out and take action. And all of those, and I had great therapists who were, would mirror sometimes, but that's, therapy is a place to create a dialogue, but it's not necessarily an action-oriented space. And we need different things. And there's a saying in the recovery world, faith without works is dead. So you can have the faith if you don't actually work it, like have the work to take the action, nothing happens, right? So there is an action oriented, and that can just be getting in our body. So all those things to say that, like, yeah, action is really can be key, and just taking one step. And so even listening to this, I'll close with this, like listening to this conversation is one thing, reading a book is one thing, but actually going out and taking these actions is another. And I know me, without a coach or a mentor, I won't necessarily do something 30 days straight unless I have someone holding me accountable. I won't try a new pattern. It helps to have someone in your corner. And so I think the power of two, like finding a men's group, finding just a friend, a workout buddy, or anyone to just hold space with you. Those are all great tools.
Yeah, I like that, Ben. It's, we often talk about the divine masculine and divine feminine energy on the show. And I think the learning aspect of it, like reading a book or listening to a YouTube about it, is that receiving energy, the feminine aspect. And then the masculine aspect is to take action, to use that logic and create something or engage. So balancing those two, taking in the information and then going out and taking actions.
And sitting and breathing is an action. Like not taking action is an action, right? Yeah. Like not opening your mouth is an action.
Or not reacting, like the knee-jerk reaction, taking that out and then just taking everything in, being aware, and then responding from a place of groundedness, love. Yeah. Brandon, what you got?
You guys said it all. You said it all on that. Yeah, I got nothing to add to that.
Well, I'm curious if there's anything, if for the listeners we have at home, it's been real quiet, so I'm assuming they're listening, but if you're there, I'd love to just know one thing that you're taking away from this conversation today. I guess to close, Brandon, I'd love to know like one thing you're taking away from this today.
Your line on, I can't remember exactly how it said, is it mine, is it mine, is it mine, return to sender. Yeah, I actually really like that, because you're right, as people that feel more and when we're empathetic, it's really easy to take other people's stuff on, really easy. And I know I've done that in the past, especially with my partner, and that doesn't really work. Doesn't really work out very well. So that's my takeaway. Thank you. So thank you for that.
Yeah, pleasure.
I'm curious what the people at home are taking away from this. Anything that you guys at home want to chime in? A takeaway?
Type in the comments.
Maybe even one word, something that's like, wow. My biggest takeaway is just that the piece of embodiment, the awareness. It's rarely talked about as far as embodiment goes, but it's just a really good reminder to feel through things in order to heal it. So yeah, because we can talk about things, we can learn things, but until we embody it, till we become it or live it, then it's just like theories, right? Just kind of like cool concepts, right? So how do you apply it in the moments of those big T's, the triggers and the traumas? And, how can we be in that space of love or presence or intuition, truth? So yeah.
Love that. Thank you. And from you guys, one thing I just was present to is just the power of connection, just getting outside of ourselves. I feel like the healing I've received just from being in dialogue with you guys and remembering I still have this, I don't want to label it social anxiety, but I get a nervousness still coming into these talks, even with people I love, even seeing a friend I love. And just acknowledging that like space is actually where like the magic happens, where the healing can be, is like in those edges, and just being seen and witnessed by other men is really beautiful. I think it's really important. I don't know if this is old school thinking or not, but and I know gender construct is just that, but inside of that, I think there is something to sitting with your, I don't want to say, I guess your, if you identify with one or the other, there's one that feels like it's missing, sitting with those people, like sitting with the masculine, sitting with men or women or trans or whatever those people, that kind of energy is, that because it has like it's got like a lineage, right? And sitting with that and having dialogue, right? Like us, us sitting together and talking about like the things we struggle with and how we can be better so that we can, show up better in our relationships as well, whether they're heterosexual or not. That this really is a universal language. So I'm just reminded of all that and the power of just being with men today, unapologetically, saying that that's something that's really healing for me. I need more of. And yeah, I'm just really, really grateful for you guys. I'm so happy just to be able to have the awareness to have this conversation, and that there's other men that are there too. And for everyone who's been a part of this conversation at home, whether you know it or not, you listening, you commenting, you holding space or sharing or following or whatever the thing is, it actually makes a difference. And you're with us and we're with you, whether you feel it or not. Like, we're all connected. So thank you. A lot of gratitude today. So to close, I'd like us to do what John just did and just take one deep breath together. Nice. And I'd like to invite everyone who's listening to do that with us one more time. So take a deep, audible inhale in. Fill your belly, hold it at the top. Think of everything you want to let go of today, and a deep exhale out. And then I want to take one more in and think of all the love that you want to soak in today. And with that, inhale that love in. Pause at the top, and then imagine exhaling all that love out to the people in your life and the world who need it today. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you at home. Thank you, John and Brandon.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone at home. And if you caught part of this and you want to watch it again, this will be in the replays on Instagram as well as Facebook Live. It'll be in our IGTV as well as on Facebook on Universal Events.
And on my YouTube page with all of our Divine Masculine Monday conversations. So please join us same time, same place next week. And please follow, like, subscribe, share this, because those positive algorithms help fight all the other crap out there. So we need more love. So if you feel it today, spread it. And thanks again. I hope you guys have a beautiful, beautiful week. Brandon, we'll stay connected.
Absolutely.
John, we'll get to Texas somehow, some way. Maybe not the middle of July, but I'll be there soon.
October will be good.
All right, cool. All right, brothers, much love. Namaste.
Namaste.
Peace.
Peace.